Okay, thank you for the introduction,
Welcome, sir.
and thank you for inviting me to have this talk. Let me begin without taking much time. Just 1 minute. Let me share my slides first.
Yes, sir.
My slides are visible?
Sir, it has started screen sharing. Yeah, now it's visible.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
It's in presentation mode?
Yes, sir, now it's fine.
Okay. Let me thank the organizers for inviting me for this talk. And I'll talk 15 minutes, and then maybe there's question answer session. And I'll put my video up so that there's no issue of bandwidth. Just 1 minute. Yes, am I audible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now this FDP is on cybersecurity, and wireless security is one of the key issues when you go for cybersecurity. And this lecture, I will not call it of more of a research oriented, but it's a lecture which will give you an overall overview of what wireless security is in the context of cyber security. That is what the whole idea of this FDP is, assuming that there are mixed groups, not all are interested on security at times. So I thought it's not good to be on details of security issues. On what you call details of the research in the security. So let us say, let me begin with a little bit to make a background about cyber security, why it is important, and then I'll go on wireless security. I'll give little introduction on this cyber security. You might have already in the morning, but I'll put it from a different perspective, where I'll talk of the cyber crimes and attacks, and then cyber security, why it is important. Now that I have given any new definition, this is the definition taken from a book. It says, what is the cyberspace after all is? It relates to the culture of computers, information technology, whatever you use, information technology, and the virtual reality. That is what makes your cyber world. That's what the whole meaning is. Had the computers with the information technology has not emerged, then probably the cyberspace could not have emerged out of it. It could have been only computers, which probably might have been vulnerable to the security, but we would not have called it cyber security until unless cyberspace had the computers and other mobile devices had not been interconnected with the information technology. That's what the whole idea is. And this also moves towards virtual reality with the new dimensions coming. And that covers the entire meaning of the cyberspace. Now, the important point why I put it here is that the internet has grown rapidly, and now it is widely also growing faster. That it has not stopped yet growing. With the 5G coming in, providing a huge bandwidth for a small area, if you have n number of devices connected together, then your cyberspace will be expanding exponentially. I'll call it exponentially because today, if you have 11 channels in your 802.11, tomorrow with the 5G, providing when or what you call a signal strength of what you call in a 60 or 30 band gigahertz band, then you'll 28 gigahertz band, then you can going to have a huge number of users in local proximity. That's what I said, it will expand. And then also, if you have medium range signals, and then which can be useful in a rural area like situation where you have a very open space, no interference, then this can provide a huge number of users from the those kind of areas, and providing also what you call another band in the urban, semi-urban areas. Then you can also have a huge number of users. So, and connected devices with massive massive machine connectivity as one of the theme of your 5G. Then with the growth of internet and upcoming with the 5G, the way the cyberspace is going to expand is huge. That's what the point. And therefore the cyberspace is expanding. That's the point I make. Now, the moment cyberspace expands, then the security threats are going to increase. That's what the whole idea is. So the cybersecurity becomes more important with the days coming. And that's what any government, even including the Indian government, they have put emphasis on cybersecurity as one of the areas for project sponsoring and other things. Now, having said this, that the illegal activities that are committed using computers on the internet or an internet, whatever you call, on the internet and an internet, that's what makes cyber crimes, right? And one of the biggest access for the internet is your Wi-Fi, wireless and Wi-Fi. And you will be surprised that 80% of the traffic and data communication in the wireless mode, whatever is taking, is constituted by Wi-Fi. So, which is vulnerable, and the security of Wi-Fi could be how much important you can imagine. If 80% of the data traffic traveling on the wireless is covered by the Wi-Fi, and the security of Wi-Fi becomes very, very important phenomenon. And the 20% is other mode of wireless. That's what I'm saying. And at the same time, if you go with wired and wireless, and as we are growing and moving, and we have wireless mobile devices, mobile phones, and the wireless connectivity is increasing day by day. And therefore, the security becomes very, very challenging and important issue. So the crime committed through internet are going to put challenge, because internet is now largely going to use wireless medium. Of course, we do, but with the mobility, we have to use wireless. So that is capturing. So that's why the focus is on cybercrime. Now, what does the security mean? That means what you need is, you need to have technology, and the processes must be designed that can protect computers, your data, your internet from unauthorized access and attack through the internet by the cyber criminals. That's what is important for cyber security. So there are technological development. That means you must have hardware devices as well for security, and also your processes designed as a software for protecting of your computers. If you go on firewall, you may have a good software as a firewall, but you need also dedicated devices. In addition to that, there are other devices which will protect you from security. So the design, the technology is important and the processes are important that must be designed to protect your computers. Now, the cyber security is important for network, data, and application. The three layers I'm talking of, layer not in terms of the network layers. Your network must be protected from the cyber criminals. They cannot use your network for cyber attacks. And even if they enter in a network, they should not be able to access your data. Your data must be protected. That's how strong your file system is, right? And how strong your disk and storage is protected. If you're using SAN, NAS, whatever storage in network, how protected your storage is. And even if in the network, whether authorized persons are only accessing the internet or the network, maybe not possible all the time, because at the same time, we have the issue that you must have Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi access. Now, metro stations has free Wi-Fi access now. And if you go airport, you need free Wi-Fi access. So it's true, but what is the authentication mechanism? In the airport you go, you must have to provide your mobile number. But yes, the criminals may misuse also. So you need also a free access. At the same time, you need a protection of the data. Not only that, the cyber criminals can attack through applications running on your system, on your network. So it's not only the network infrastructure, say the routing is not the only responsible through which the attacks can happen, but the applications running on the network could also be equally vulnerable to the cyber attacks, plus the data. So three kind of situation or mechanism where the attacks can happen, and they're important for protection from the cyber attacks. Therefore, the main goal of the cyber security is that you must have rules in place and you must have regulations. The government must come out with the regulations. Each government has its own regulations for network security. What kind of, like say, for example, if you go for a satellite mobile phone today, you cannot get it without approval of the government and the license. And the licenses are not given that easily. So this is one of the regulation. Even in 802.11, which is what you call a ISM band, industrial, scientific, and medical band, which is fully accessible band without license band. But in India, you cannot use without the government permission. Now the question of I'm raising is, you need regulatory mechanisms, but at the same time, you also need a free license for academic and industrial research, where you can take approval from the government. But India, it's not. In US, you go, you don't need to take permission for ISM band. But India still you need. So this kind of rules and mechanisms are required from the cyber crimes and can provide you the cyber security. That's what the objective is. So having said this, last point I make here is that they use your computers as a target. They can attack your computers by using denial of service attack, viruses, hack. And then also at the same time, they can use computers as a weapon to attack your systems. So the computers are used both ways, as a target as well as a what you call weapons. And now with enhancing mobile phones, and targeting of mobile phones has become under challenge, because you do most of the activities through your mobile phone. अभी तो आजकल आप अपना पैसा भी मोबाइल फोन से ही निकालते हैं. You also transfer money through your mobile phone. So I don't use my mobile phone for money transfer, but largely you do. You have your account linked with your Paytm. You have your account linked with Google Pay, and then you pay either through Paytm and Google Pay. But your accounts are linked with those applications, so that your money is deducted from your account to Paytm, and then Paytm makes payment. The point I was saying is, with the expansion of huge number of mobile devices, the mobile devices has become another target as a device for cybercrime, or they are used as a tool for or a weapon for using attacks on the other. So from your mobile, you can spread a virus or a ransomware and so on and so forth. That's what the new dimension with the enhancement of this added to the cyber security. Now There can be various kinds of cyber attacks. I'm not, this is only to build up my lecture. I put it, include the phishing attack is the very key. Mobile se aajkal sare phishing attack hote hain, because they ask for your password, they ask for OTP, they ask for many things. Then, you know, many of you may have watched Jamtara, a documentary, what you call, on the Netflix. देखा है लोगों ने देखा होगा. How many of you have seen Jamtara? Yes, many of you may. Say this is a place in Jharkhand, and this is a phishing attack came from this because one of the chief minister's wife ransomed by 29 lakh rupees in a day, and that is primarily the former chief minister of Punjab, Mr. Amarinder Singh's wife. She got a call, and then OTP was shared, and 29 lakhs of rupees was siphoned in a day through this phishing attack. And then the whole machinery became active, and then they found all at the end where this has taken, money has gone, and there's no connection in Punjab. And when the police became active, they found later on that this attack has been committed from somewhere in Jharkhand. And then they started identifying, then they find a place called Jamtara in Jharkhand, where from the whole mobile attack has taken place. And then they try to locate the criminals. Ultimately, they found there's a big gang who is involved in phishing attacks, big political, under a political patronage, who used to earn money for political activities. That's what the whole Jamtara serial made of. And this is how the phishing attacks, 20 lakh rupees in a day, even a salary not of a year of many of us. So this is where with the mobile, the cyber crimes has become more and more, and we are more vulnerable. So we need cyber security now. That's what phishing attack with the money. And denial of service, most of you know, and I'm not going into detail that you have. I can overload your system with the TCP attack, and so many, I'll send packet after packet, and there your buffer becomes full, and then you will not be able to receive any service. That's what the simplest kind of denial of service is. This is what we attempted long back and try to learn while learning something. It's good at times the student must learn few things. It's not with the purpose to hack, but to learn what happens actually. So then, yeah, ransomware is the very this, and ATM skimming, your go and point of sale, your password, everything is taken, and cloning, and you lose a lot of money. So the various kind of cyber attacks with the mobile communication, mobile phones, they're increasing, and therefore the security becoming more and more important. And all this is happening. Why I'm brought this is when you take a ransom, this phishing, and many of the attacks which you take, most of them are taking place through wireless. And the mobile phone you call and then take OTP or something, whatever you do, you are doing through the wireless medium. Now, it's not that all the time the medium is responsible, but here also we are also responsible, or those who are doing, they're using the wireless security, the wireless network. Now, it's not only that you secure a network, then it can be. The phishing attack cannot be saved by saving the networks. It can also be saved by applications. You may have more mechanism of security built into the application. That's why more and more security television. Earlier, when you draw money, online banking you do, and one OTP used to come. Now it's not only one OTP, it says that you also say, sure, second time it comes, you sure, and with Airtel advertisement comes, it says, are you sure? Then you say, that means if somebody asks you OTP, you give, and before drawing the money, another OTP come, are you sure you're withdrawing? So that you know, I'm not withdrawing, somebody else withdrawing, you can stop there. So the mechanism has to be built into the application now. That's what the application layer security becomes at the time important. So what I said totally is There are virus and hacker attacks, there are criminal attacks, there are internet attacks. And most of them are taking place through wireless nowadays. And you don't see much of the wired connections are leading towards that. Yes, it happens because uh, mm, uh, most of the crimes seen through the mobile device. Anyway, having said this background, when we move to the wireless security and the 2-3 things, you must understand what level you need security. Therefore, we must have a connection with the layers, because sometimes people ask questions. That is why I put this slide. And layer-wise security is important, whether it is wired or wireless. That's what important point is. And if you look at this whole layer-wise diagram, I put it this way because I'll take on the right one the TCP, not the OSI model. That is what is widely used and known protocol. Now, you need to have a security mechanism put at each and every layer. If I say host network layer, that includes my data link layer, and between data link layer and what you call hardware layer and your internet layer. Hardware layer consists of both your data link layer as well as your physical layer. So you need security there, you need that security at internet layer, you need security at transport layer, you need security at application layer. Putting security at only one layer may not be sufficient to do, because if you have application layer security, and if you have an encryption done at the application layer, fine, the data is encrypted. But somebody at the transport layer may access your port and then take the data and camouflage or can be taken away the control and become the user as if he's the user who is transmitting. Your data can be encrypted, but now you started communicating with him and he knows the key sharing. So that's what I'm saying. Even if you do at application layer, transport layer may do something. And if transport layer security is put in place, then at the internal layer, the routing layer, somebody may enter into it and take a routing packets from there. And then once a router takes a packet at routing layer, it can open everything and then manipulate certain things. That's how it's. And then at the lower layer, you need also security to have, because so when we talk of application layer security, we talk of email security. Your email should be protected, and your HTTP security. Now you have a HTTPS protocol now in place, right? Instead of HTTP, use HTTPS, that is secure HTTP protocol. So you are making security as hypertext protocol layer level. All electronic transactions you are doing with the bank, they also provide security at the bank transaction. They'll provide you OTP, they provide you encryption of the message, whatever you are transmitting. They also provide you certain login passwords. See the kind of the levels of security at application layer. You can say you have password login, you have OTP, even with the password now SBI, while you are logging in, it sends you an OTP, so that it ensures another level of security has come. It doubly ensures that the right person is logging in. You must have your mobile with you only when you are get this. But gradually you see that people also adopting different modes of doing this. Then even after you doing transaction, then OTP comes. It will ask for what you call is another level of passwords, right? Not only transaction, what it call I've forgotten, but it needs another level of transaction, login and security password. So multiple layers of securities are there at application layer. Then you need transport layer security, and they devise secure socket layers between transport layer and application layer, so that it provides security to the transport layer. If you are using your what you call socket structure, then definitely have a secure socket. And if you are using another kind of operating system or protocol, then you have a transport layer security as well. So TL security or secure socket security, that is it provides security at the transport layer. Then you have internet layer where IPsec IPsec provides security at internal layer so that your routing or your protocols are also data is also secured. That's what. So if you see at every layer, you have a security as transport layer, you have a security as application layer, you have a security as internal layer. Now, in addition to that, if you go at the hardware, you have a MAC layer, you have a physical layer security. In the MAC layer or medium access, because I'm the whole data link layer, you have logical and MAC, so forget all logical. So MAC layer also have to have securities where you have encryption and you have other checksums and keys and many things. I'll talk one by one. But you also need a physical layer security, and when there was no encryption, you can also secure your network by using FHSS, that is called frequency hopping spread sequence. And that means you don't send a signal on a fixed frequency, you keep on changing your frequency one by one. A big message is sent on different frequency, and a small part of the messages are sent on different frequency and randomly hop across the frequency. So that means those who are tapping on your frequency probably may not know which message is coming from which frequency, and they may not be knowing all frequency you are using at all. So that way, that's why you see Indian military has given huge bandwidth. अभी आप कभी article पढ़ते होंगे that government has taken some of the bandwidth from the army or military and then auctioning it for the user. But they occupy a large band of frequencies because they need huge frequency initially. The military is a very sensitive communication where you need security. So when there are no digital communication, they used to FHSS, and which needs huge frequency. So you keep on randomly changing the frequency for sending the messages. So the enemies could not trap on all frequencies. That's what the idea was, frequency hopping. But with the digital communication, when you are transmitting digital signals and your data is stored in the digital format, then you can have encryption, and then they also provide direct spread spectrum where you can have ports which will be used to spread your bandwidth one way. So that's what the security comes. So my focus is on wireless security. So I'll move towards that. Some noise.
मनी सर मेरा एडमिशन सर हाँ 4:30-5 बजे तक आएंगे.
Please continue, sir.
Yeah. So there's some sound was coming, so I stopped.
Yes.
So basically, this lecture will be mainly on your last two layers, where you say medium access and physical layer. That's what the whole idea is. If you look at ANOT 2.11, it works on what you call it as a medium access control, and then you have the physical layer. So I'll skip this. So the fundamental idea that concerned with the wireless security is it's not quite different from the wired one, but it is more susceptible to the attacks. That's what the important is. In a sense, it is open media. It is inherently broadcast medium. So anybody can sniff in. Where in wired, until you put another wire or some pin in the cable, you may not be able to do that. But in wireless, it's open medium, so you can easily you have to tune to the frequency and you can receive the signal. That's the point. So that is why it becomes more vulnerable to security threats. But nevertheless, as far as the security mechanism is concerned, they may be to a certain extent same requirement. So of course, the confidentiality that Whatever data you send, it must be secure, and the integrity of the data, it is not change on the way. Availability, that net should be available all the time, and the authenticity means who only the legal or the valid users must be able to come into. And then yes, accountability is equally important. That's what the same requirements that is also in your wired one. But most significant source of the risk in wired medium, as I said, is the medium of communication, open medium. That I said is vulnerable. Now, the key factors that contribute to the higher security risk of wireless as compared to wired network are the following. Number one of the important is the channel. Because if you take channel means a frequency band. That's what we are referring to. Not a wire, not a this medium. I'm not referring to medium like as a wire or something. Whether it's wired or wireless, you need certain frequency band to be used for communication. And whole entire band is divided into sub bands, and the sub band is called a channel. That's what I take it. So whether you go through wireless or you go through wired, there is a channel, right? So in wireless, your channels are mostly shared ones, and at your home Wi-Fi, multiple users may same the same band. That's what we are saying, and it is inherently broadcast. Inherently broadcast means it's not that you make it broadcast; it is broadcast nature as I speak, and whoever is in my communication range can listen to, because I am speaking in a frequency which you can, all of sitting into the range can receive it. They are tuned to that. So I'm inherently broadcasting. It's not that I make it broad. Otherwise, I should take a pipe and put your pipe on ear, then I'll speak in between. Nobody else can hear except you. That is the kind of unicast. So being a broadcast, inherently broadcast in nature, and the channels become very susceptible to ebbs dropping, and somebody can jam your signal, but that cannot happen with the wired ones. And wireless network are also more vulnerable to active attacks. That's what we are saying. It's not that your data gone and somebody used and somebody does something. While data is on the travel, that somebody can actively get into that and then pick it up and do something. And what you can say is, if the communication is going between A and B, then C may come in between and pose as B and then communicate immediately. Probably that there are lesser chances in the wired network for that. And you are assuming that you are transmitting to B, but C is behaving as if C is B, and you keep B is the authorized one or authenticated one, but ultimately you are communicating with C, which takes your what you call confidentiality of your data, or makes you your data you very vulnerable to that. That's what the problem is. Second is not only the channels, the mobility also makes it more a risk for it as far as wireless communication is concerned, because it's not only why mobility, because today you take your laptop, you come to JNU and put your laptop in the JNU. I come to your college and put my laptop to your net. This is what portability means now. My laptop is portable from my place to other place. I can plug into another network. You come to my place and plug into my network, and then you can use my network and do certain kind of mischievous activities. That's what the portability means, and that is possible with the what you call as. And second is the mobility, because devices are mobile from one place to another place. If I'm not able to use this network, I'll log into other network, move to other place, use other network, and then do whatever I have to do. So because of the mobility, the wireless devices that are more portable and mobile, that also makes wireless network more risky and more susceptible to the attacks. That's the point. And then the resources. Like some wireless devices as smartphones and tablets huge. They are also mobile phones. They are all susceptible to attacks. And not only that, there are some sophisticated operating systems and they have limited memory. They cannot have very huge operating system, but small sophisticated operating system with limited memory and limited processing resources. And then probably these limitations of resources could also put threats, because say you have a limited memory, I put you transmit more and more data, and then make full your memory very quickly, which may not be possible in a non-mobile or a fixed device. Then denial of service, your mobile phone cannot access certain services because your memory is full. And you have a limited processing capability, therefore you cannot put a very time-consuming security applications on your mobile phone as well, because a complex security algorithm may consume more memory and resources. Therefore, you cannot have a complex algorithm running on your mobile phone, which consumes more processor power or memory, and it consumes more processing power, takes more processing time. Then not only that, it will also consume battery, and you have to recharge it. So that's why the resources are also very limited, and therefore the wireless system becomes more vulnerable. That's what I'm thinking. And another key factor is the accessibility, that some wireless devices have sensors or robots, and they may be placed in a remote place. They're physically vulnerable. Somebody can steal, but I'm not going on that security on stealing. But if they're unattended, and the new security attacks which is taking place there, that's a problem also. And how do you manage that? And the battery, the attack is like that. Some attack goes on a sensor and it consumes battery, and the sensor is dead. Then once the sensor is dead, even you cannot, until you bring it in, you cannot recharge and do something. That means the sensor was attacked and battery was consumed and gone. It is put in a very inaccessible area, and therefore you cannot connect with it, and therefore you don't know what is happening. That's the point I'm saying. So this is the what you call difficulty and the problem arising because of the accessibility of the devices. You have dropped with the helicopter that on the Everest, some such sensors, and then communicate, say for example. You cannot go in the Everest every time and see whether your sensor is working or not. It's gone once gone. That kind of situation I'm talking about, in addition to the physical attacks, which is not part of the lecture now. Therefore, the principal threats are eavesdropping. Somebody can peep into your messages. And not only they can alter your message or insert new message in place of your message, and then do disruption to the activity which we are supposed to perform on the network. That's the problem because of the wireless transmission. Right. So it's not on that somebody eavesdrops and takes a message, but they insert and alter your message and disrupt the whole activities. Like say, for example, if you are launching a satellite, assume that way, and you communicate with the launching devices from the wireless medium through the ground, and then somebody disrupts and change some message, and the whole action is reversed, then the whole loss. Though it's a very imaginative kind of that quickly it cannot happen, but it will happen in future as well, because when two big countries and powerful countries fight with each other for their supremacy to launch something in the space, then they also try to attack these in the space as well. So all this can happen, and absorbing that somebody cannot peep into your message traveling on the transmission. I said signal hiding by your FHSS, as I said, is one of the techniques of signal hiding. Encryption, you do that. Everybody knows we do encryption and decryption. That's not a. Now, the use of encryption and decryption, whatever you do, it needs authentication protocols as well. There are various standard methods for counter attempt to alter instant message. If you do, there are certain methods which will not allow that to do, or need certain protocols which do verify and then allow certain things to happen. You study any security course, you study that there's a message exchange, key exchange, and then after key exchange, you use those keys, but somebody should not be able to alter during the message exchange or the key exchange. Protocols are there for authentication, so the key goes shared between right people. That's the point. So not only the Wi-Fi. Before we go on the Wi-Fi, we have wireless network as a cellular network. And if you look at that, when 1G came in 1981-82, and which we did not see in that time, probably we see a whole wireless communication cellular network in 90s, not even it became very popular after 2000, late 90s, and in 2000 early it became started becoming grabbing Indian market. Though the 1G came in US in 1981. And that time, sorry, if you look at the security of 1G, what you see is that 1G was an analog signal. You don't have a digital techniques, you use analog signal processing, and designed for only voice communication. You used to have only voice transfer, no text, no video, no audio, no data. It was only your voice call. Therefore, only when you are making a call, especially in the military, people using 1G, using call, when they're transmitting messages to their counterparts, that the enemy should not be using it. So the only way out was FHSS that time, the limited security, but that was not very popular. So this advanced phone service did not use encryption because it was not digital at that time. And thus there was no security of information or telephone conversation. In 1G, basically, for telephone conversation, you do not have any security at all, right? So it was highly insecure network, 1G. So therefore, what you can say is that practically the whole system was open to the security challenges of kind of eavesdropping. Anybody can pick your signal, tune to your frequency and take that. And therefore illegal access can happen, cloning, and the privacy. All these are open to security challenge. But 1G did not survive for a long because the mobile phone size was very big. So immediately 2G came, and with the 2G, with the GSM, when it became most powerful and widely used technology. But in the meantime, GSM came because we have a digital signal processing came in between. That's what it started time division multiple access as well. And that provides the security in terms of encryption, right? And the data of the user, you started transmitting text with the 2.5G SMS. And then another role played was the SIM card. And we started using a SIM, subscriber identity module. And that was also an authentication for the right kind of legal users. So SIM is in your name and you are a right user, that you are an authorized user to use it. But in the beginning, if you remember, people used to buy SIM in somebody else's name. And that was also a problem. But SIM also provided an important level of security as a key in encryption. Taking your SIM, and it will encrypt and then say that it has come from a right valid subscriber of the network or not. And rest of the messages and communication was encrypted. That's how it began. But there are other limitations of devices. That was a different issue. But at least we have security mechanism was in place when 2G came. That's what the idea I'm talking about. And the one problem was that the operators only authenticate the user equipment, SIM card, and the other international identification number. That was only used that the operator can authenticate whether somebody who is communicating on the network is an authorized or authenticated valid equipment or not. But at the same time, it was not possible vice versa. As a mobile phone, I cannot verify whether I'm communicating with the right network or not, right operator or not. मेरा phone वही use हो रहा कहीं और. That was not possible vice versa. That's what we did 2G. Then came 3G, and it to certain extent became popular certain time, but could not pick up for market. That's why 4G came in. And it was developed primarily for a network which provides you a higher data rate. Only main cause of 3G was higher data rate, so that you can transmit your video, you can transmit your image. That was the idea. And in between, from the 2G, your Apple phone started coming, and also it became more popular because you can see and in a good way the images and the pictures and the videos now every phone does this. But that also gave boost to the development of 3G at times, Apple. But it uses same authentication or encryption, but it uses bilateral. That means a device can be verified by the authenticated by the operator of the mobile service provider, whether it is Airtel or MTNL. But at the same time, your mobile equipment or user equipment can also authenticate the mobile operator, which operator you want to connect to, and that also possible. So the both way authentication was possible with UMTS when it came as a 3G. And this removed the threats of a false base station. That's not, you should not be connected to a false base station, and therefore your whole identity, everything can be stolen. That can happen. But with the 3G, that was not possible because equipment can also verify whether you are with the right base station or not. That was the key point which came. But I'm not talking of 4G added more, but it's not. Now let us come to the 802.11. That is what the major data transmitting technology used using wireless communication. Now, many of you will be surprised that 802.11b came in 1999. And initially 802.11 came in around 96 or 97. And then B became the main important Wi-Fi connectivity equipment or what you call protocol. I'm mixing up both protocols and equipment because protocols are especially implemented on certain special equipments. And that's what I mean, that you have an NIC card implementing this protocol. And this L02.11b can work both infrastructure mode and ad hoc mode. Infrastructure mode means it will have a access point which will control all the devices connected with this through this protocol, or it may be there's no central control. Each device can connect to any device anytime. That's what ad hoc mode. And this Wi-Fi L02.11 works on what you call 2.4 gigahertz band, and it has 14 different channels, but US use only 11 channels. That means it does not mean that, but each channel is shared. That's why it's 11 bits shared among all users. That means if 11 channels are, they're shared among, you have maybe 100 users sharing all channels. That's what I'm saying. I have a device at home. My proximity, जहाँ मैं रहता हूँ, इसके आसपास बहुत लोगों के पास 802.11 है. अब 10-11 लोग तो अलग-अलग चैनल पर कर सकते हैं. उसके बाद फिर the channel has to be shared. So it does on channel sharing. that makes it cheap. That's what the important point. Why do we share the channels? To make it cheap. Otherwise, you have to pay more cost. And that's what the important point is. But what is the security feature in A02.11 and B? One of the important part is when you open your 802.1, you find SSID. We call service. जब खोलते हैं तो SSID आता है, and then you give verification or the security with SSID. What is SSID? SSID is an identity that differentiates one access point from the other access point. You have a access point at home. Your neighbor may have another access point at home. How they will have a different SSID. That is how they are differentiated from each other. So in a proximity, two access point or two modems cannot have same SSID. And that's what the whole idea is. Now, so how it works? It works in a way that SSID is it broadcast in a beacon frame every few seconds. So your modem at home, Wi-Fi modem you use at home, it keeps on broadcasting after every few seconds. What you call is a your SSID of your modem. And what is a beacon frame? A beacon frame is it contains a plain text. It doesn't contain anything, not encrypted, it's plain text. And if you go in the proximity and you open your mobile phone, you see that which are the Wi-Fi in your nearby. आपको सब मिल जाते हैं उनके नाम के साथ में. And that's what, because beacon frame comes to your mobile the moment you go in a place, and that sends a plain text which contains the name SSID of the modem, and then you see. That is what is the first layer of security, that you cannot connect automatically to a what you call to a Wi-Fi, but you get a message and you have to connect to it. That's what it is. How to connect? That is, but to provide security, the first layer of the security is that you get a beacon frame with the SSID, and how do you connect to that? It's not that you go automatically, you are connected with the Wi-Fi nearby. It doesn't happen. That's the first layer of security, but that is not sufficient enough. Then access point have two ways of initiating communication with the client. What are these two ways? Any access point can have a shared key or open key authentication. Now in home, you have a key, and then until you provide that key, you cannot connect. That is what shared key. You share a key with the Wi-Fi modem and your device. Another is open authentication. If you go a railway platform or airport, certain are key free. This is open authentication. You don't provide a key that way. That you have to provide a key to connect with, but something has to be there for connection. You're connected simply by clicking. You go to the airport. Some Wi-Fi are left open without the key. That is what open key authentication is, but it also had certain kind of authentication that we'll talk about. So the open key allows anyone to start a conversation with the AP. जैसे मैंने airport का example दिया, अगर open access है आप पे, आपने connect किया, start हो गए. But it provides certain data, needs certain data to be provided. That's fine. It may ask you to provide your mobile number or something that will store that tomorrow is not which session was used by which person. Something it may ask, I don't know, or takes your mobile phone number. But it doesn't need a key to be shared before you communicate. That's what. But shared key is supposed to add an extra layer, because the moment you share a key, you go to the SSID comes, then you try to connect, it will ask this private key. And then if you know the key you provide, then only you can connect. That is what the shared key is. And this provides you extra layer of security by requiring authentication as soon as one associate. That means it needs you to provide some information, some key, so that it assumes that you are an authorized user and connect you with the Wi-Fi. That's a client begins by sending an association request to the AP. आप request भेजते हैं, click करते हैं, connect. That is request to send. जब आप connect करेंगे, जिस भी Wi-Fi से SSID आएगा, you said connect. And when the moment you send a request connect, then the AP responds with a challenge text, unencrypted. It sent a specific text to your mobile phone, which you don't know, but it sends a text, which is called a challenging text. Why it's called challenge text? Because through this text, it will authenticate you. Then what do you do as a client? When you provide this key, right? The client using the proper WP key, आपको जो shared key है, you provide this key and then it encrypts the text you received with the key and sends it back to the AP. Then it sends back. So AP knows that you know the key as well as you are the one who received the text which the AP sent. So it's not that somebody else is doing it. So it's also an authentication through key sharing. Now, what is WP is called wireless equivalent privacy. Wired equivalent from privacy, sorry. What you do in wired is you are using RC4 algorithm or 5. So similarly, you use the RC4 algorithm here in the Wi-Fi. That is why it's called wired equivalent privacy. And if your text is, if the text which AP sent to the mobile, if the mobile is encrypted with the key properly and sends it to the AP, then AP will only allow the client to communicate once it verifies that the key is right and the text which it sent is also right. But still, ironically, the open key is a very short answer. That could not be as you see. So using passive snipping, one can gather 2 of the 3 variables needed in shared key. Shared key with 3. What are the three things? You have a text, then you have a key, then you have a challenge text, you have a key, you have an encrypted challenge text. So even if I don't know the key, right? If you gather what is the challenge text and what is the encrypted challenge text, somebody may decrypt it, but if this algorithm is not very strong, because the key is not used for encryption and decryption. This key is only for verification. So if you get the challenge text and encrypted text, probably you can try to match and find the difference and can do by brute force method. That's simple, and other you can find out. So that is what it called. Even 2 variables of this shared key, you can. This is vulnerable to the security threats. That's what the problem is. This WEP was built to secure 802.1 primarily. It uses a 40-bit RC4 encryption. I'm not going to talk of the RC4, the Rivest cipher algorithm, which Rivest provided the algorithm. And you can go through the book and study RC4, RC5, anything. But only I said that is an informatic lecture, not the detailed lesson. So 40-bit RC4 encryption it uses. But it encrypted using RC4 algorithm, and the key it may be a 40-bit text and key. Intended to make wireless as secure as wired network. That is why it's called WEP, wired equivalent protocol, because it tried to make wireless network as secure as your wired network. But unfortunately, the 802.1 standard, even if you use RC4, it was been proven insecure to certain situations. And leaving 802.1 protocol quite open for attacks. So it doesn't provide that kind of security still. Wi-Fi से लोग जो करना कर लेते हैं कई बार, because you only know the text, what text it is being sent, and then you can find out the ciphertext and try to match and mismatch, and then try to find out, you may be able to get it. That means if you try to apply certain techniques and for encrypted text to the you try to get the text and then match your text with the challenge text, it matches that, you have been able to identify. That's what the whole point. So therefore, to overcome the difficulties of ANO 2.11, another protocol was developed in 2003. It's called Wi-Fi Protected Access, WPA. जब भी आप अपना लैपटॉप या वो खोलें और अपने सेटिंग में जाएंगे तो पूछता है कि WPA यूज करना है कि WEP यूज करना है, right? Generally, now almost every system uses WPA protocol. That is called Wi-Fi Protected Access Protocol. It was developed in 2003 to overcome the security threats, the vulnerability that was possible in WEP. What it does, it used a 256-bit WPA pre-shared key. That means I must know the key and then only I should connect. So with WPA, additional security mechanism developed. What is the additional security? You have a message integrity check. The kind of CRC used, you have certain message integrity check. That means you apply certain functions, add to your key, and the same mechanism apply there. If there is no change in the message, then therefore it is all right. That's what, like your CRC, what you call cyclic redundancy check, here is a message integrity check. If the bits are changed, then you will not find the same remainder. That's what the whole point is. And then it used a temporal key integrity protocol, means the key is generated with the time for that session. And that also is used here to encrypt. So it provides you more secure. The previous WEP only has a key and encryption, but here you have an encryption also changed with the temporal key, additional key, as well as you have a message integrity check. That's what it provides you, additional security. And it operates in two modes. One is called enterprise mode, for which they developed the enterprise authentication protocol called APA, and individual mode, which is called a PSK for individual modes. But WPA has also found different vulnerabilities. So WPA provides two different protocols for individual users and enterprise users that you have to keep in difference, which is not true with the WEP. But it's WPA also became vulnerable, and therefore they also need to improve that. And therefore, 2006, they developed a new protocol called what you call is WPA2, Wi-Fi Protected Access 2, and this protocol was developed and it uses authentication mechanism as a AES, Advanced Encryption Standard. After DES, AES came, so Wi-Fi started using AES. That's what you'll find in your this. Also, not only that, it uses a counter cipher mode with block chaining. Block chaining, aajkal aap bahut sunte hain. That means it also uses some blocks there and uses one hash code in another small to certain extent for authentication. Right. Instead of TKIP, it uses AES and CCM. So the protocols changes for message exchange as well as for encryption. So for what you call key sharing and other that authentication, they use CCMP, and for encryption, it uses AES. That's the whole idea. And the other improvement which took place with WPA2, and that it provided the client can move from one access point to another access point with no re-authentication. Otherwise, if you are connected with this AP, you have to give your key here. Now you go to the next, you have to give again. Now, but how it is possible? But if we say that two APs are part of the same extended network, not basic service system, but extended service system, then it is possible. Otherwise, it's not possible also. And they have a pairwise master key. Forget about this. And but the whole idea is the WPA is good for home network, but it is not. It is vulnerable for enterprise network again. something called dictionary attacks that can happen because they keep a lot of information and that can be stolen. Now the latest is you can go through WPA3 protocol. Still under trial, developed in 2018 with the Wi-Fi 6 or AX standard. Now हम जो भी Wi-Fi लेते हैं उसमें हमारे उसमें लिखा था AX लिखते हैं ना. That is why I call AX or Wi-Fi 6. This will be mandatory for Wi-Fi as far as Wi-Fi 6 comes. WPA3 will be a mandatory protocol for that. It will offer certain key exchange protocols. Till now, if you look at, we don't have a key exchange protocol. That means it's a shared key and we provide a key. We know the key in advance, we provide, and certain encryption takes place. But this will also say that the key exchange protocol will be used. That even if you don't know, it will send, your device will send some key to Wi-Fi and then agreed on certain point, then it will happen. Not only that, it will also use QR code for connecting devices. अभी जो QR code use करते हैं, in addition to the key exchange, the QR code of the device will be used for connection. If that happens, it will provide you more security. That every device will have a QR code, and then that has to be used for connecting with the. Now, if you look at the comparison of these protocols, what you see is WEP is a very, it provides a very low level security. If you look at WEP, it uses RC4, it uses a 64-bit or 128-bit key size, open system and shared key, and it provides CRC32 also for integrity check. Whereas WPA, it also is low but not very low. Its security is higher than the WEP. It uses a temporary key integrity protocol as well as RC4. It uses RC4, but it adds your temporary key protocol also. That means there must be key generated, temporal key, sorry, with the time. Then not the same key will be used all time. And again, it uses 128-bit key size. It uses a pre-shared key, that means you must know the key in advance and then use it. And it also provides a message integrity check, MI 64-bit additional code, which will be using as you are used as you do CRC similar manner. WPA2 is it provides a little higher security and uses AES 128-bit key size and so on and so forth. And WPA3 proposed will provide a very high security because it will have a key exchange protocol. It will use key QR code as well. And it will use a secure hash for algorithm for integrity. And using AES also, that's what will go. And but the important thing which I want to talk on this wireless is three things before I conclude. With the 5G coming, as I said in the beginning, and the wireless security becoming more challenging because the Wi-Fi in the 5G, as I said, the EBM band, what we call is a, we have a 700 band, we have a 3.5 gigahertz band, we have a 28 gigaband, hertz big gigaband. If I'm 28, it's 28, if I'm correct. That means very high. And this 28 gigahertz band will be used in the home appliances on a big market, where you can have a large number of devices connected and what you call a massive machine connectivity or Internet of Things, which will be provided by this 5G. That's what. And it also focuses on ultra low latency. That means your delay of the network should be very low so that your virtual reality can be realized or can be used with that, or even not only virtual reality, even you talk of augmented reality, where the virtual reality, the actual reality can be mixed up together. That is what your what you call augmented reality. So what I'm saying, the security challenge becomes very, very important here. And I have not put slides here, but the blockchain technology, there are papers anybody can go and read on IEEE transaction. If I know, I can tell, I can see in my computer and tell you on blockchain technology for 5G security. It's very, very important. If anybody is interested to work on security area, because the reason is 5G are more vulnerable to the security and the become challenged 2-3 regions. One reason is you are using a very high band and where a large number of devices will be connected and sharing the bandwidth. So same problem which was in Wi-Fi will also exist here, but the devices are more and we have more chances of vulnerability. That's what. So how to make it secure? Probably at this point, whatever you do in the Wi-Fi could be useful here. That's not a big challenge. The another challenge comes where in 5G, what do you see is that much of the backbone or the core network switching will be done by software-defined radios. That means different applications will run for different planes. Aapka control plane ka alag software run karega, data plane ka alag software. That means your message will be transmitted by a different application. Your control signals will be transmitted by different. When you do this software-defined radio or different platforms, then the application running there may be soft target for attacks. So you need more security for using software-defined radio as a part of core network. Second is also work on virtualization of the network. What you read in cloud computing, the virtualization of all core network activities is very, very important. That means it will not be done by only one. You create multiple virtual networks for switching. So you have devices, but create virtual network or operating system parts, and then each one will be given as doing a different job. And this virtualization can also be very susceptible to the security challenges. So the 5G network is not a simple challenge of a base station and the end equipment. It's a challenge for a core network where virtualization, software-defined radio, and many more things will be used. That's where the challenge comes. And with this, I think I will stop here. And thank you. For any question, I'll take questions.
Okay, sir. Now with this, we have come to an end of our today's last session. If anyone is having any question, then please ask, sir. Is there anyone? Okay, I think no one is there, sir.
Okay, good.
Okay, sir. So thank you very much, sir, for your words of wisdom and sharing valuable information about wireless network security. It will definitely help us in our future endeavors, especially like what you explained that about 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G, and that association with the access point with shared key or open key, and even those security features of 802.11b like SSID. So thank you very much, sir. It has been a wonderful session. We are so honored and privileged to have you amongst us, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
much.
Yes, ma'am. Now, hello, Manisha, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful talk.
Thank you.
Kindly switch on your video. We will take a one snapshot.
मैंने तो on कर दिया.